Hi, and welcome to In Real Life. And hopefully this is going to be a fun conversation for you. I've got my great friend Anne Townend with me today. Hi there, Anne. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, it's a great pleasure. So Anne and I have known each other a lot of years. We won't say quite how many, but we've walked the Christian path together for a long time. And actually, I remember you being born again.
Yeah, and the children have grown up, so
Yeah, so our children grown up alongside each other and stuff like that. So yeah, it's great. So it's a great privilege to have Anne here. Now, Anne, just a little bit about your work background, because you're a nurse, aren't you?
Yes. I say I'm a former nurse now, but nursing has been my way through my working life, and I've worked in different scenarios. So pre-children, it was very much on the emergency side and ITU. And then latterly, I worked in the community as a community matron and working really alongside people with chronic health problems, so in the nature of heart failure and COPD, and just trying to prevent them going into hospital and just coming alongside them, both in different areas and then latterly in the local area, so the Gravesend. Yeah. So I put that down about 3-4 years ago, which is, and I still have I've always had an interest in how people see themselves in health and how maybe people don't see themselves in, so that's really been something in my life, and which I'd love to continue. And I do continue in sort of coaching as well. So, yeah.
And Nan's been very much part of the Heaven in Healthcare setup and team. But I was interested, yeah, because you've worked in intensive care, as did I actually. I did quite a lot of intensive care work when I was a hospital doctor. And so I guess both of us can understand the pressures that are on the systems and that's going on at the moment with the COVID crisis, can't we?
Yeah, definitely.
It's a problem, yeah, that pressure in the intensive care, but at this moment in time, very intense. So it's our desire to help and support all healthcare workers. But what we want to talk about today is actually the Healing Centre, which is another aspect of what we do in Heaven in Healthcare. Is actually, because we do believe we want to put the miracle of healing alongside great medical practice, and we see those two as completely complementary.
Yes.
And so Anne and I, we've worked together on the Healing Centre since, well, we actually inaugurated it together just over 10 years ago now, I think,
yes,
wasn't
it? That's it, yeah.
Did we open our doors in 2010 or 2011? Which do you think it was?
I think it was October 2011, but we spent that time really getting ready in ourselves and thinking about our vision and our reasoning, didn't we? Yeah.
Yeah, and we very, very deliberately set it up to have a positive interface with the medical world, and just very mindful of that. So we took a year training everybody to be mindful of that, just the sort of the nuances of just making sure that we actually were compatible with the medical world, so that we gain the confidence of the medical world with regard to healing and being able to supply the sort of the resources of heaven that aren't there available in the NHS. So to supplement the human resources with heaven's resources, and that's what we've done and desired to do, isn't it? So, and how many people do you think we've seen over the years, Anne, in the Healing Centre?
Wow, it's been quite a journey, hasn't it? I guess it could run into thousands over 10 years, because we started off. We started off in New Ash Green only, was it monthly?
Yeah, once a month, wasn't it?
And then we moved to twice a month, and then when we moved to Eastgate, we were twice a month, but we moved up to the big auditorium quite quickly. And then we came downstairs when the annex was created, and we thought, so consistently, and now online this past year.
Well, I say at one stage, one year, I think we had, I think it was about 1,000 people pass through the Healing Centre. That's when we were up in the auditorium, and I think we had twice a month we were open, weren't we? And about 40 or 50 people every time with a big team. Then we had a team of something like 70 volunteers.
70 people. I know we still hold quite a fairly big team, although at the moment, understandably, on Zoom, there are people who have use Zoom for their work in the week, so to come on again at the weekend. But we still have a big team that are really committed.
Yeah, and it's interesting, and I think that team from, well, at one stage it was 16 different churches, wasn't it? So it's not just Eastgate Church, but very much serving the whole church community around us. And we had somebody come. You used to travel up all the way from Bournemouth to be part of the team on a Saturday morning, didn't you?
Yes, yeah, and we still have sort of people from multiple streams, and that's really great because we still express the culture of Eastgate, the culture that we want to, but us together as a team, growing as a team in our faith, in our work, and our desire to express God in His healing nature, gets fed back just very naturally to other streams and other churches without pushing, by example.
And also, I think out of that, there have been other healing centres opened up in different churches around, particularly around the southeast, around, I think, over in Essex and other places, which is it's a great delight, isn't it, really? So we say that it's, God's the same everywhere. He's the healer. And we have a very simple philosophy, don't we, that if we can have the presence of God in the room and people can touch Him, then they can get healed. It's just, that's our simple philosophy, isn't it? So
it is, and it's like, it's rediscovering, especially with Zoom, rediscovering that, and that it was quite funny, almost sort of delightful, when people would come in on Zoom and say, well, actually, it's just the same as Eastgate. I just walk in and I walk into the presence of God, and I just feel so relaxed and unaware that there's this virtual, I say barrier, but there's sort of a difference. But there's no difference.
But can you just explain to folks, like, say when we were in the physical reality of Eastgate, how did we go about setting up every Saturday morning when we were doing it like that?
Well, when we did have a time when we had live worship up in the auditorium, and we would set up an encounter deliberately, so with, I don't know, colours and drapes. And then I think we realised that we realised ourselves that we were settling in a way that had become part of a formula, dare I say it. So we very much wanted to move as God moved, and be obedient to Him, just follow His leading. So downstairs we would have a welcome area, and we still do. We have a comparison on Zoom, so that we set people at their ease. We have always invited people of different faith and streams, or no faith. It doesn't matter, and different cultural backgrounds. We want to honour and reflect God to everybody. And so we have a welcome area, and we've had then paperwork. It's all done online now. But that just ensures that we are accountable, that we are transparent, and that we respect confidentiality. And so that's quite important. And people are very, very understanding of that. And then we have music, and we allow people. Prayer is not passive. Encounter is not passive. So we just we will pray with people, and we do pray with people, and people come because people have very different ideas, don't they? And you've got to acknowledge that and coming alongside. And so we pray for people, not a long time, and then we would enable people to spend time by themselves, just thinking, enjoying, and worshipping as they would like to, and there's no pressure on them. And we'll come along and say, how's it going? What's happening? Because we want to stand with people on their journey and celebrate when wonderful things happen.
So we're not trying to work hard at getting people healed, are we?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Because that doesn't work, does it? It just doesn't work.
No, not at all. We just like see it's an absolute joy for us to get together on Saturday morning and just that's our worship. But it's not, I want to say, it's not a shop front as such. It's not, oh, well, it's what we do Saturday morning and then we go off to our other life. It's our lifestyle. It's a style of life that we want to show people.
Yeah, beautiful. And then we actually find that people get healed just by coming into the room, don't we? Just, I love it. So many times you say people just come in. I think it's important to say that we actually spend time worshipping together as a team for an hour before people arrive, because that's the most important thing, is it?
It is.
God inhabits the praises of his people. We connect with him, and we very, very deliberately create a joyful and peaceful environment, don't we? We say that's really important for people to enter into that.
Important.
Because when people are sick, they come with, anxiety, sadness, and we choose not to enter into those emotional realities, not because we're unaware of them or unsympathetic, but actually realize that actually we need to lift them into the environment of heaven, and in that place they get healed. And just I remember, well, time after time, you have people would just walk into the auditorium and get healed before we even get them as a team. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes. No, I can remember. And I remember a husband of a team member, Steve, came in the front door of Eastgate, and he said, I took 11 steps and my shoulder was healed, and he hadn't reached us at all. So, and people who've made that, it's like God knows their heart so much that when they make the desire and the intention to come, then they notice a difference.
Yeah. I remember, won't say names on online so much, but it's the lady who's part of Eastgate, and she broke her ankle really badly, and was in real trouble, and the family were in trouble because of she couldn't work, so finance was difficulty. She was the main wage earner in the family. She couldn't travel around, and the church really did well. They rallied around her, helping her with meals and finance and transport to hospital appointments and stuff like that. And then she. Somebody brought her to the healing centre on a Saturday morning, and she was in terrible trouble with her ankle, and I had been informed that it would probably never be right again. And she was in such severe pain, she really struggling. And she walked through the door into the auditorium, and immediately God touched her, and she was healed, and she was back to work the next week, wasn't she? It was phenomenal.
That's it. No.
So, and I think that's one of the things we say. So it's not, we're not trying to make, we don't have a formula, we don't have techniques, because we don't believe in that. We just want people to touch Jesus the healer and get healed. A bit like the lady with the hemorrhage. That's our sort of model.
Absolutely.
Get them to touch Jesus and then watch Jesus do his stuff. So tell us some other stories, because we've got a lot, haven't we?
Well, I mean, recently, on that theme, touching the hem of his garment, and one lady came and encountered and received her healing, and went back, and after a week realized that the symptoms had returned. And we would talk to people and say, you can say, tell the symptoms to, but she chose to return to the place of her encounter. She chose, not because anyone said to her. She didn't have the experience prior to her first visit of Healing Centre. And so she just came back to that place, reconnected, and her symptoms went. And she was at incredible peace and joy. So that's just a delight.
Beautiful.
I mean, we love the instant when someone says, well, I don't think I could move my shoulder like this, and it just wants to sort of celebrate with them, and be thankful.
Yeah. Another time we had, because for those who don't know, we're based in Kent, North Kent, just southeast of London, and available to anybody. And we have team members who travel a long way to be part of the team. But also, there was a man who drove up from the Isle of Wight, an elderly man. Now, I think he set off at something like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning to get the first ferry, and then drove up and was waiting for the healing centre to open, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. He was. And yeah. And I think God just met him in an amazing way, and in a surprising way, didn't he? Because his hearing was restored in amongst the other things that he came.
He came for one thing, didn't he?
Mm.
And his hearing got restored, and his knee got healed.
Yes.
So much so he came up and downstairs. He was surprised. It wasn't the thing he came for, because that was an unknown. We wouldn't know whether he was healed of that, because it was an internal issue. So he got healed of two things that he didn't come for. And I believe he did improve on the other. I can't remember full details on that, but went back to the Isle of Wight very happy.
Yeah.
And I remember actually we followed him up. He was followed up a little bit, actually, because he said he wanted to bring other friends from the Isle of Wight. We said, you don't need to do that, because actually you can pray for people right where you are. So actually he started to do it on the Isle of Wight, which is, it's great that people travel to be with us, but we're trying to teach people that actually they just need to be with God. And wherever he is, they can get healed. Now, tell us a bit about what we've done, obviously, with the COVID crisis and stuff. We've not been able to meet actually in person, but you've basically transformed Healing Centre and put it online, haven't you? So how have you done all that?
Yes, I mean, we realised as soon as the lockdown was imminent and we couldn't meet anymore in Eastgate, it wasn't safe, that we would come online. So we did, because at that time Zoom, there was issues of confidentiality and security, so we thought we'd better start off with Skype. That was a huge learning curve, but by mid-March we were on Skype, and I like to think that the learning curve was in a way uniting the team, because we had to work together to sort of but very quickly we realized that we would have to transfer to Zoom. So by July, we'd finished the transfer and the training, and so we meet once on Saturday mornings on Zoom. But we still have the comparative of the natural in Eastgate. And when things go back to normal, when we can go back to Eastgate, we will, but we will run the two scenarios concurrently. So because we realise that it's good. It's geographically, it reaches people that cannot, and it's maybe unwise for them to travel a long distance, or it's not possible. So on Zoom, we have a welcome area, just like Eastgate. And I like to think that they are welcome, people are welcomed, explained, set at their ease. And it's like you in your home, coming into your house, you take off your hat and coat. And on Zoom, on that space, you can take all the baggage and the anxiety and tension and put it down and relax. And then we transfer you over to prayer partners who are already waiting in different virtual rooms to spend maybe a short time with you. But that's more than sufficient. First of God, just to break in the welcome area, or online, and then we just encourage people when we say goodbye. We always say we'd love to know your experience, because we're still learning. There's really much we want to learn, and we want to just be really aware of what's good for you. And then we encourage people just to take time to ponder over what God has said to them, and just to revel in his love. Yeah,
that's open to everyone, isn't it? So it's open to people of any faith or none, or any geography. And also, I'm right in saying that one of the chaplains in one of our local hospitals actually took hold of the opportunity, and people were phoning in from their hospital beds, weren't they?
Yes, they were. So we've had people phoning in from their hospital beds or their beds at home, or geographically, situations where they couldn't have travelled,
Mm.
and internationally. So that's, yeah.
Yeah. So where have you had contact from internationally?
Well, our very first person was from Germany,
Mm.
and so, and I believe South Africa, and I believe Portugal. So, yes, so it's just lovely just
Yeah.
to meet people from different ways, but meeting all intent on connecting to God, to a loving God who heals.
It's amazing. It's beautiful. Well done. And just to say, actually, again, with the people phoning in from hospital, again, that training that we've did right at the beginning, that's carried on through to make ourselves very, very compatible and, as you say, accountable, transparent for the health services. So that, and if other people want to recommend that out there, then the Healing Centre is open and available, isn't it, for people to phone in from hospitals, or GPs to refer people in, and it's, well, recommend. We say we don't take referrals, because we're not a medical thing. We're quite clear about that. We know what we are. We're offering the opportunity of a Christian encounter and prayer space for people to sit alongside. But yeah, so I just say it's a fantastic facility that's there for people. And I'm so excited by the way you've developed it. I haven't actually experienced it online. I should have a go. So
You should come and go. And I mean,
should
I
come
love that.
and have a go.
Yeah.
And
Along
you tell
that
people
line,
how do they access the Healing Centre if they want to? How do they get into that
there's an online
heal?
form to complete when you go to either the Eastgate Healing Centre.co.uk. There's the form on there, or the Church Online diverts you to the link
Yeah.
to the healing.
So on the Eastgate website, there's go by the Church Online to the Healing Centre. Yeah. And also, is it we got healingcentre.org.uk? Is that our website?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have our own individual website, which has got testimonies on it and stuff like that as well.
Yes, it has.
So healingcentre.org.uk.
Yeah. And going back to because on our team we have a really varied team, as you say, from different streams, but also with a mixture of people, and a mixture people who are in work in the health field in their working life, then are still part of the team. So that's good. And we have people who are part of the chaplaincy as well.
That's good. And we had the opportunity, probably just 2 years or so ago now, where a couple of us, so Dr. Mike Vaughan and myself, presented the Healing Centre, mainly Mike Vaughan, to about 100 local GPs, and it was well received and acknowledged as a sort of a complementary service alongside general practice. So that's good to say. So we've done quite a lot of feedback research as well, and we won't talk too much about that, but that was really important to us. Like you say, we value feedback, don't we?
Yes, we do. We do want to, yeah.
And part of the if you like, we do form filling in just for accountability, but also actually get people to sign that they won't change any medical treatment or without going back to the relevant health professional, and that's really important to us. So that we're not dispensing medical advice either one way or the other. Take this or don't take that. So that's not our job, but we'll always refer back into the medical world for that, and that's a really important part of our principles.
Really important. And all our team, we take safeguarding as really important as well. And that's the same, but there's also different aspects being online, because so that's people are all up to date and up to spec with that.
Yeah, I guess it's just a different deal online, isn't it, really?
It is.
Yeah, so it's been a lot of work for you this year, isn't it?
Well, yes. When people say they don't know what to do, I think, well, but it's been fun, and I just work alongside a great team who've got diverse gifts. And one thing is that if people come in from different streams or cultures, we would never to presume to push our faith on people. We're available, but if that's not what we're about. We're just about releasing God's goodness and love, and then
That was part of our feedback questionnaire, wasn't it? That people didn't feel pressurized or coerced in any way to change their beliefs, give us money, attend any meetings. It's really important to say that it really is unconditional service. You know, as is the grace of God. It's a reflection of the grace of God. God's love is unconditional. Then that's our responsibility to be like Him. So it's very much we want to love people. And one of the most important things we say is that people actually leave feeling loved and feeling more peaceful and joyful. And we got a lot of that. We obviously would love to see the physical side of things, but also actually people's mental well-being. And you've got some stories about that as well. Just recently.
Yes, I mean, people's mental well-being is tremendously important. And someone came and yes, they had a sort of a large health problem, a difficult health problem, but nothing's difficult for God. But the fact that she went away at peace and sleeping much better was really good. And people who are undergoing health treatments like chemotherapy or sort of different treatments with the health service, they will come to us, and is that they lose their anxiety, or they can cope better. And I remember one guy having a cancer diagnosis, and he was going, the first time he went back for to check up, and he was undergoing chemotherapy. He said the nurse broke down and cried because she saw the acceleration of his getting better. So we very much want to work in tune, and I think God does.
I think we say we just like being part of the story. We're not claiming to be the story. I think it's we're just part of the story, and we're not fighting for credit of who gets them better. Was it prayer or was it medicine? That it's all works together as far as we can say. It's all complementary, and that holistic side of things, of people's spirituality, their psychology, their physical well-being, all those things work together. So, yes, I think that's one of the things we've learned, is that we're just happy to be part of people's stories. And so we probably need to land this in a minute. We could probably keep going forever with so many stories. One of my favourites, probably favourite because it's quite personal to me in terms of my mum died of cancer, and then a number of years later, a lady came to the Healing Centre with the same diagnosis and a nasty cancer. And I remember she was due for surgery 10 days afterwards. But she had a cancer which basically consumed the abdominal cavity and was an incurable one. And nasty. So she was having medical treatment, and then she came, and they were going to open her up surgically and remove as much tumour as they possibly could to sort of what we call debulk it and try and help her live longer. And she came to the Healing Centre, had her surgery 10 days later, and when the surgeons opened her up, there was not a sign of cancer within her abdomen, not one, was there? And she was surprised, overwhelmed, and she lived healthily, didn't she? After that. She was. I think she was elderly. I think she might have died now. But basically, was she was so surprised, and she'd go back for her regular medical checkups, and the doctors would rejoice because she was well, she was better. She'd rejoice, she was surprised, and she just continued in good health. And I just love that. It's a fantastic story. But the medical world can rejoice alongside us as well, because we're all aiming together to get people better, aren't we? And that's
and sometimes you get messages, people will say, well, I went to the doctor and I did say, and he said, well, whatever you're doing, carry on and do it, that's fine. So that's
we just like to be good news alongside good medicine, don't we? So well, Anne, it's been a real delight having this chat. We've not been seeing each other. I moved house about 5 years ago, and so didn't have my next door neighbour right there. So, but we do. We love working together, and I just wanted to say thanks, Anne. You do a really good job of leading the Healing Centre team. It's a great pleasure to be your friend, and this has been a great chat. So hopefully you've enjoyed this in real life episode, everyone, and we'll look forward to seeing you again before long.
Okay, thank you.